Hello, and welcome to Women Finding Clarity. I'm your host, Pascal Cook Fernandez. This week's show is about something powerful and something I believe we're being called to reclaim: the deep feminine wisdom within the experience of menopause. For far too long, menopause has been treated like a medical condition to endure or a symbol of fading worth. But what if we flip that script entirely? What if, instead of seeing menopause as an ending, we honor it as an initiation, a sacred time of passage into a new and more powerful version of ourselves? Because here's the truth: menopause isn't about decline, it's about refinement. It's a shedding of what no longer serves. It's your body, your energy, your spirit saying, we are entering a new era, and it's one of unapologetic power. This is the time when your intuition sharpens, your boundaries strengthen, your clarity deepens. You are no longer here to please. You are here to lead, to embody, to own your truth with grace and fire. So if you've been feeling like your identity is shifting, if your body is asking you to slow down, speak up, or change course, listen. You are not broken. You are becoming. In this episode, we'll talk about how to honor your changing body, reclaim your voice, and recognize this transition for what it truly is: a powerful awakening. And no one is here to support your awakening more than this week's guest. Carin Luna-Ostaseski is the founder of Hot or Just Me, a comprehensive online shop and go-to resource for managing perimenopause and menopause. The site offers a wide range of trusted products, expert advice, a gift shop, and a bookstore, as well as a supportive community, ensuring women have everything needed to navigate this transformative stage and feel empowered. Luna-Ostaseski's journey with perimenopause symptoms like hot flashes, brain fog, anxiety, insomnia, and night sweats inspired her mission to find a solution. A serial entrepreneur, she is the first American woman and Hispanic person to create a Scotch whiskey, Sia Scotch whiskey, that is. The award-winning blend, launched through a record-breaking Kickstarter campaign, has left a significant mark in the industry. She also founded the Entrepreneurial Spirit Fund by Sia Scotch, which has provided over $350,000 in grants to underserved entrepreneurs, making a tangible difference in their lives. She continues championing the next generation of entrepreneurs in her ongoing commitment to help people thrive. So without further ado, please help me welcome Carin Luna-Ostaseski. Carin, welcome to Women Finding Clarity. And I have to say your name like that because it makes me feel so exotic and fabulous.
Well, you can. Not a lot of people can pull it off, so thank you so much.
You're such a beautiful soul. You're beautiful, but I can also see already and feel that your soul is beautiful. This
Thank
is
you.
going to
It
be
takes
such a
one to know one.
yeah, this is going to be a powerful conversation. I can feel it.
I can't wait.
So I like to start out kind of, how did you get to where you are today? Because you had an amazing journey. So let's start out by talking a little bit about some whiskey and alcohol.
So that was the career that I had. I call that my second act. I'm calling this my third act in life. I'm 47, and my chosen career out of college was that of a graphic designer. And it brought me a lot of joy for many, many years. But there came to this point in time where I found myself just staring at a computer screen all day long, designing things with the intention for other people to stare at their little screens all day long. And I was also, not coincidentally, going through a pretty rocky divorce at that time. And, as breakups do, they kind of make you rethink who you are, your identity without this person, and, where else you're unhappy. So I finally said, you know what? I'm unhappy with my job too. And it's time to just burn the ships and just start fresh. And so I was finding a lot of joy over a glass of whiskey with people at that time, really having these moment to moment connections in real life and going deep and slow and having these meaningful moments. And I realized that's what I wanted to do next was, to create a spirit that could, kind of change these barriers that people had around, meeting in real life and having these connections, but also Scotch in particular. I love that it's this like sipping, slow down, go slow kind of drink, but it's also misunderstood. People think it's like this old man drink. And so I was like, how do I introduce a younger generation, a younger demographic to this spirit that I love so much? Not knowing anybody in the industry or having any relevant alcohol experience, it was a really hard and challenging road. It took several years to finally get it up and running, a lot of rejection along the way, but I was really proud when we finally launched, and it made me the first woman in history to ever launch a brand of Scotch whiskey.
Okay, first of all, let's celebrate that for a moment. The first woman. I mean, darn Trailblazer. Second of all, I agree. Like when I think about Scotch, I'm like, yeah, old man sipper, like coming off the golf course, singing a mahogany library, right? But
Yep.
my son, his girlfriend's family introduced him to, I think it was a Scotch drink. And, it's got some lemon juice in it and it was delicious.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't all have to be that smoky cigar taste in your mouth. And that's what I was aiming for. So Sia is very approachable. This beautiful palette of vanilla, caramel, citrus, honeys, and it's very cocktail friendly. And so I was really proud of the spirit. And it went on to win numerous awards. And eventually the brand was acquired by one of the largest spirit companies in the world.
Congratulations to
Thank
you.
you.
It's amazing. Okay, we can stop the show there because no, I want to go on to what is now your third act. And you're 47, but you're only 47 and you're on your third act. And you're already amazing. So, yes, you wanted to introduce people to this amazing spirit that you loved so much. But I just want to point out and, draw the line for people that was a discussion about an amazing spirit with an amazing spirit who is you.
Aw.
And so you're pulling from that and going on with your own amazing spirit. So, all right.
Thank you. I can do you one more on that one. I actually created a fund called the Entrepreneurial Spirit Fund. So it was very much about supporting underrepresented entrepreneurs, so women, minorities, people from the LGBTQIA plus community, and just giving them a leg up because fundraising was just so brutal and hard for me as a woman, as a minority. So I set out to, help as many people as I could as kind of my North Star with the business. And the first year, all I could donate was like $100. Second year was like $200. And then as the brand grew, I was really fortunate that I was able to create this entrepreneurial spirit fund. We've given away $350,000 in the form of grants to help small business owners, so $10,000 grants plus 6 months of mentorship, where I've like personally helped 35 entrepreneurs with, connection, resources, and community to help each other. And because I think, as people, like, we tend to give back and support our own communities. So how can I help have like a reverberating effect? And so I'm also trying to champion new causes now with my new business to make sure that there's always like a North Star brand ethos and a why to be able to give back.
So beautiful. And there's such a lesson in that. If we want to be successful, the best thing that we can do is to just reach out and give other people a leg up, right? It's
Hmm.
not to focus on our greed and we all deserve to be paid for our gifts. We all deserve to be paid for services and whatever. But that's not what you want it to be about.
No.
Success comes when you stop looking at those things as your focal point and start looking, how can I be of service to others?
Yeah. And I mean, and if you use that, like, then your success is so much more meaningful because you look at it from a lens of the more that I can grow this business, the more people I can help. And so it's not about helping yourself, it's about you helping others and then they in turn help others. So it's this, it's almost like this earthquake that you can create.
Yes, because we do tend to, and I say we collectively, I think
Mhm.
as humans tend to feel like, I mean, who am I? What difference can I make? But look at the difference you've already made and you continue to make. If you didn't, if you said, well, who am I? I can't make a difference. It's only $100 this
Mhm.
year.
Yeah.
First of all, $100 to someone an entrepreneur who's starting a new business is a big deal.
Yeah.
Second of all,
Huge. Yeah.
it grew exponentially.
Yeah. And then, as you continue to tell the story, people get behind you and they align with your vision and you have allies and it just kind of, it fuels your fire. So it just kind of gives you that extra help you need on those hard days, especially that like there's a meaning behind this. There's a meaning
Yeah.
behind this like pain and this hurt and this suffering that I'm dealing with today because it's for a bigger cause.
Mm, you're so wise, Karin.
Oh, thank you.
So
It took
wise.
a while.
As it does, right? Life, we are in the school of life.
I love that.
So let's talk about your third act. Tell us a little bit more about Hot or Just Me.
Oh, thank you so much. So it happened for me, I would say my early 40s, where I started getting hot flashes. And it was this simple question that I'd ask myself, but also pretty much everyone around me was, is it hot or is it just me? And that led me to realize first that it was mostly just me. And second, that I was deep into perimenopause. So I had other symptoms that followed quickly, like brain fog, anxiety, hair loss, and insomnia. And I went to a few different doctors that were really not much help at first. And I finally found the right doctor and started having conversations around hormone replacement therapy, which isn't quite yet ready for me. But I did find some amazing products and service providers along the way that made a huge difference in my life and then also people that I've shared this with. And so I realized that if this is happening to me, I can't be alone, and realized that there wasn't one kind of resource, if you will, that had, all the products and advice and support for women in perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. So I decided to create hotorjustme.com to help support women on this journey.
Thank you for that. So I am kind of in line with where you are. My mom passed with ovarian cancer. And so she gave us the gift of genetic testing before she passed away. And then so we had genetic testing. So when I was 40, I had a complete hysterectomy just to, based on my genetic testing, just to alleviate that greater risk.
Yeah. It meant it
Um,
happened for you suddenly, I imagine, with big
exactly.
severity.
I mean, once they remove both of your ovaries, that's it. You're in menopause. And so I woke up out of surgery, and I would say within 2 hours, I started having hot flashes.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it was outpatient surgery, which to me is insanity
Yeah.
because you just had a major system removed, a whole system
Yeah.
removed from your body. Um, but I came home, and for, I would say, at least 4 days, it was just, wringing sweat and then fine, wringing sweat and then
Mm.
fine. In hindsight, I kind of feel like that was the way to go because it was just like, boom, you're
One
done.
and done. I mean, I have a girlfriend. She's dealing with some cancer issues right now, and about to take hormone blockers. And same thing. Like that's the dread is I will have an early and extremely fast menopause versus the usual 3 to 10 years of symptoms that we have leading into the day of menopause. So it's yeah, I I can't imagine what you went through, and I have such sympathy for you.
Thank you. I, honestly, it just gave me relief,
Mm.
just because of our familial experience. And
Yeah.
so there definitely, I did feel loss like, wow, we weren't actually going to have any more children, but now I definitely can't have any more children. And, you know, giving away a part of your body is its own kind of loss. And I
Mhm.
don't mean that dramatically, but I feel like menopause can be seen as a time of loss, but I feel like you've created this reframe about
Mhm.
menopause that makes it more empowering. So, how do you help women shift their mindset to embrace it as a transition, maybe into more confidence, or
Yeah.
to just go through the transition with more confidence?
Yeah, I think I feel like this age is I've like earned my stripes, if you will. And my stripes being the grays that like, I'm just starting to just earn, right? Like
Oh,
with
yeah.
3 children and just, realizing that I've had so many journeys, right? I've been married before, I'm married now. So I've like been fortunate to be in love, and then also the journeys that falling out of love gives you as well. Gone through a successful career and then, starting a business and just falling on my face so many times through that process, and, the humility learned from it. And yeah, just being a mom too, right? Like I've earned these 47 years and I'm proud of everything that's gotten me to who I am today. And so I think, there's societal issues around how we're supposed to look or be, and just so much garbage that we're fed through the years. It's an age where we just kind of tell it all to just be quiet and shut up for a while we like navigate this next time in life. And some of us happen to be blessed with having children that are going through puberty around this time too. So also, having a mirror, if you will, for what it looks like on the other side, right, of these hormone changes, these body changes, emotional and physical changes, and having that kind of level of sympathy and compassion to help someone else navigate it at the same time. So I think, yeah, with Hot or Just Me, definitely, a platform for women to find community and resources, information, and, products for their home and their bodies to help navigate this stage in life.
It's so necessary, and I haven't seen it anywhere else, but I love that you're a resource for what's healthy, what works, what makes sense for you, because we're all very different. The fact that you've got this hub, this wealth of information that's available to women, this wasn't a thing before. And so that in itself is so empowering. You empowered yourself to empower other women. And I feel like that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, generationally, like, we didn't really talk about this, right? Like, I don't know about you, but my mom and I never used the word perimenopause. It wasn't like a topic. And, I think she barely even understood what was happening during her hot flashes as well. I mean, as a kid, we grew up super poor. And so we had an air conditioner in Miami, but we didn't use it because it was expensive to run. And so we had a lot of fans going in the house. And I remember there was a time in life where my mom just would crank the AC, just it would be freezing in the house. Like, what are you doing? She's like, it's just so hot. And so it's just like, interesting to see that now when I started getting some of the signs, I called her and I was like, hey, when did these start for you? She's like, oh, I think it was early 40s for me. So being able to just kind of like track some of that familial history, and just to understand that like it wasn't a conversation that for us growing up, but it is something that we can kind of change the narrative now and talk about it, openly, and, not be in shame about what's happening to our bodies during this time in life.
And what I love about that is it opens the conversation with not only older generations, you being willing to reach out and say, hey, when did this start for you? What was your experience? But now you're reaching back into the younger generations,
Mhm.
and you have empathy and compassion for what your children are going through. And because you are opening the dialogue at such a young age, there's not going to be the stigma around all of the different changes through the years that other women went through.
No, I mean, as a culture, we celebrate our children coming of age, right? You're becoming a woman, you're becoming a man. And, we see it's like very drastic spike in sex hormones, right? With all their changes in their skin, their acne, their hair, it's greasy, their like bodies are changing, their mind is all messed up. And it's like we look at them, with the lens of sometimes frustration, but also a lot of like sympathy and compassion of like, oh, that's a hard time in life, these teenage years. But we don't have that lens sometimes for ourselves of saying like, hey, our bodies are also dealing with a lot of changes, and so are our minds. And so it's like same thing, skin and hair and bodies, and like here we are again. But it's like, let's turn that lens of sympathy and compassion to ourselves and just have a little bit more grace and, patience with ourselves through this, and just also realizing that the same way it happens for all of them, it's also happening for all of us, right?
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
we'll all get some of these symptoms at some point in our lives.
for sure. So, I mean, that brings up we have changes. It's called the change for a reason. And we really do have different identity shifts as we're going through all these changes from adolescence into prepubescence into right through menopause.
Yeah.
So, as we're experiencing all these different identity shifts, How do you feel like we can embrace the changes versus resist the changes?
I think just calling them out, right? Like naming them, naming the feelings, naming the emotions is big. Like just speaking it into reality, right? Like I'm feeling lost, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling confused. Like I'm noticing this change is happening in my body right now. And to have these conversations with yourself, with your partner, with your kids, with your healthcare practitioners, and just start to like just bring these words into existence so that it becomes real and something that we can address and be a little bit more practical about it. Like, all right, so I'm dealing with hair loss, so what does that look like and what does that mean and what do I need to do? Or my periods are heavier now than they ever were. Or, my mind isn't as sharp and I'm noticing, that I'm walking into rooms and saying, why am I here? Or, yeah. And, same things for, I'm with my partner and, hey, I'm not in the mood and I'm not really understanding why, but here's some stuff that I learned that we could do to kind of reconnect that isn't maybe in a sexual way because I still love you and I still want to have a relationship with you because it's important. Or, I'm groggy, I'm not sleeping. Like here are some things I'm going to work on tonight to make sure that I have a successful day tomorrow. So I think it's just being, yeah, just bringing it out into the world so that we can address these head on.
Yeah. And when you name it, when you're willing to talk about it, you're giving other people permission to talk about it too.
Yes, it's the biggest one. I think it's like, we have these books for our kids as they're going through puberty. And one of the books is like, is this normal? It's like the feelings book or all about you. But like the one of like, is this normal? Is a big one because you're like in your head and you're like living in this silo and you're realizing that like, is this only me? Is this happening to me? Am I alone? Is this normal? And like, I kind of call it girlfriend medicine a little bit when you start to talk to your friends about it. You start to realize like, hey, oh, you had that too. Or you have like an older friend that's kind of been down the road and she's like, this is what it's going to be like. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think it's important to just bring that out into the community.
So important. And what it does is as you were talking about it, you just kind of laughed a little bit. You chuckled as you were talking about it. But that's what it does is lets it it takes the pressure off. It
Yeah.
lets you laugh at yourself a little bit because it is normal and we
Yeah.
are all experiencing the same symptoms or an overlap of symptoms to some degree.
Yeah, and it's like this is our vessel, right? Like we're going through this life in this body in this vessel, and it's like we'll have problems. It will break down. There will
Yeah.
be like some issues that come to light, and it's like instead of just kind of masking it and pretending like it's not happening, or hoping it's just going to go away by itself. Like, hey, let's tune this up.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And it again is going back to opening conversations because one of the things that drives my kids crazy about me is that I will ask them the same thing like 5 times. They're like, Mom, I've already told you this 4 times. I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't remember. Tell me a fifth. I mean, what are you going to do? Right.
Yeah, yeah. I got one where I was like, I talk about this in this article that I kind of like let my vulnerability out, but it was like on Time magazine and I was about brain fog. Like the stakes are low when you walk into a room. I forget why you were there. But for me, I was driving and I was literally like headed in a direction and I had this moment where I was like, now where was I going again? And it was like, it was scary because I'm like now driving a vehicle for about like 20 seconds. That felt like the longest 20 seconds of my life. And I realized like, oh yeah, I'm going like to the car wash. And I was like, oh, okay. But like as someone who prides myself on being pretty sharp, it was like this moment of like, hey, you gotta like get on top of this, like because this could be a bigger thing. And so, getting myself checked out. But then also just realizing like what are the tools that I need? Like I've become somebody who's like a champion list taker, a note taker, and my day is planned out and like, everything is in the GPS now. But just like being like, how can I support myself for success and not feel like I'm losing it?
Mm, that's a mic drop question. How can I support myself for success?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think we're very quick to lean into the fear. Oh my gosh, am I, developing dementia? Oh my gosh, what is wrong with me?
Hmm.
Our worthiness, our confidence takes a hit, all of it. When
Yeah,
really the question is just, what tools do I need to support my success?
100%.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with you. So, in that kind of realm of fear, I feel like as a serial entrepreneur, do you have any advice for women who want to take bold leaps in their
Mhm.
careers, but feel held back by fear, or, who want to maybe transition from their first or second act into their third act.
Yeah, I think identity is a big shift, right? Like for me, I spent 17 years as a designer. It was my community, my paycheck, my identity, and just like very much of, you introduce yourself, oh, who are you? What do you do? Right. And so
Right.
it became very much scary of I want to do this other thing and I don't know much about it. And it was very humbling, right, to know that I did what you don't know, and where to start from zero. And I think not having a paycheck was the scariest part for sure. Not having saved up enough money, but it was almost like, well, you got to figure this out because you're not doing that anymore. And I definitely did more like still worked a second job and freelance and had taken out like as much credit limits as I could to kind of fuel my success. And I needed cash, but it was really scary. You've got that inner critic, you've got that, imposter syndrome that shows up. And, so I think a lot of it, again, it's like speaking it out loud, like saying like, oh, what do you do? Well, oh, I'm a designer, but I'm working on this Scotch business. And then like everyone's like, well, tell me about that. And so now it's almost like, oh, well, it's still kind of like working on it, but I think I might call it this, and here's what it's about. And so just kind of starting to take that leap of faith of identity, of like identifying yourself as an entrepreneur. And in some ways, this is going to be a little cheesy, but I'll go there. I had reached out to as many people as I could that were in the industry, whoever I knew, and I talked to this one whiskey maker, and I was like, "Hey, do you have any advice? Any books I should read?" And he's like, "Yeah, read The Alchemist." And I thought, like, wait, is this like a chemistry book about like whiskey, or do you mean The Alchemist, like what I read in high school, the Paulo Coelho book? And he's like, yeah, that one. And I was like, okay. So I read it again. And it was wonderful about just kind of saying like, that the universe will open its way to you when you set your intention. And so it's kind of what started happening. So I'm a big believer in kind of like manifesting your destiny, right? Of saying like, this is what I want. This is how I see it going. And, I did that when I was ready to meet my life partner. I made a list of of what the qualities this person would have. And then, when that person showed up, I was like, yeah, he's kind of like the right list here. And the same thing, like when I'd started my business, I said, what would be the outcome? And I wrote myself a check, and eventually like that was the almost like to the dollar, like the amount that the business was acquired for. So it was very much like, setting your intention for what you want in your life and, in your business. So I think, yeah, definitely just speaking it out loud, setting the intention, and then walking the walk.
Ah, my next question really was going to be, you know, does spirituality mindset work play any role in your success? And you very clearly just laid it out.
Yeah,
And
I
so
mean, I
now I'm
encourage.
even more like, oh, Karina's so dreamy.
There's there's a book I read like every 10 years, and maybe it's not by accident, but it just seems to be every decade. But it's called Creative Visualization by the author is Shakti Gawain. And it's just really beautiful about like visualization, and I'm doing that now. Like I'm being very vulnerable with my kids about starting a business. Like I want them to see me struggle, and I want them to see me like succeed. And both parts are important, like not just showing them the good stuff and what it really takes to start a business. So the first couple of weeks when there was like no sales coming in, they'd be like, "Mom, did you get any sales today?" I'd be like, "No, I didn't get any sales today." They'd be like, "It's okay, Mom. You'll get it. You'll get it tomorrow." And it was just so sweet. Like they're like 9, 8, and 5. And so I was telling them, I've like got my first sale and I had this box, and I like have the box in the front seat of my car, and I got my 3 kids in the back. And I had this moment where I was like looking at this like one little lonely box, but I saw that the box was going to stack and multiply, because what that meant was I was helping so many more women. And so I started talking to the kids, and they're like, "How about today, Mom?" I'm like, "I got this one sale." And they're like, "Yay!" Like super cheerleaders. I said, "Do you guys know what visualization is?" And my little one, the 5-year-old, he's like, "Yeah, we do it at school during our meditation." And then I asked asked my daughter, and she's like, yeah, we see our routines and gymnastics in our brains before we do them. And my other one's like, yeah, we do that like when before we do like a presentation, we like picture like, ourselves there calmly giving the presentation. I was like, wow, these kids are so much more evolved than I was growing up, and they already have all these tools. And so I said, well, I have this visualization that, this whole front seat's going to be filled with boxes, and maybe eventually the whole car. And they're like, Mom, we won't even be able to fit in this car. We'll be like, you'll have to take us a different time. So it was just so sweet to see how well received they were to my vulnerability, and that they were like champions for me. So I think it's important to just share your dream with your friends and your family.
Yeah, because even before you're confident about it, share it because sometimes we have to borrow confidence from someone
I
else
love that.
to
Yeah.
be able to build our own, right?
Hmm.
So, oh, I love that. So I know that, you have your community and great. It's a hub where people can go and find resources. Let's talk a little bit about how do you work with women? What does that look like?
Yeah, yeah. So I have basically reached out to as many female founders of products in the menopause space as possible, and had lengthy conversations about what drove them and what their product means to them and which other brands they've worked with. And it's basically like we're all kind of like scratching our own itch, right? Like we have this like dealing with these symptoms and we didn't see it in the world, so we decided to create it. So in that same way, I get to support female founded brands, and then get to find other brands that they've worked with in the past or that they recommend. And so it's become almost this like network effect community of other female founders. And then in the same way, in terms of women that are looking for support, like it's very much like a community of, hey, I've tried this product, this should be on your site, or hey, what do you recommend for this? Or, when will you be opening up this category or this symptom? So really just listening for what's needed out there. And knowing that I can't do all things to all people right away, so I said, what's like kind of like the challenges, the most common symptoms that women are facing right now? So on the site, we have categories for hot flashes and night sweats, a collection of, cooling blankets, nightwear, fans. And when I say like just as an example, fans, just like a couple of fans, but I can tell you that I bought 40 different fans, tried them all out, and I could say like, okay, this one was too loud, this one's too heavy, this one's too noisy, this one catches my hair. So it's like very, very well curated products. Insomnia and fatigue, vaginal dryness and low libido, hair and skin changes. We have a bookstore and a gift shop. And then we'll be opening up categories soon, like irregular periods, brain fog, mood changes, anxiety, urinary incontinence. And we've also grouped the products by bundles. So a collection of products based on needs. So we have like a welcome to the club. We have like stay cool and calm. We have spice things up. And then we have a personalized quiz that people can take to kind of guide their own adventure of like, this is my age, these are my symptoms, this is the stage that I'm in, to help kind of guide that narrative. In the same way
Mm.
that we help women with products and services, same way that with my old business and my North Star right now is about giving back and champion women, both young and old. So, period.org is an organization that we've aligned ourselves with to give money to help support women get access to menstrual products. So you think about young girls in many countries and even here, right, whether that money is an issue for the kinds of products that they need. It keeps them from going to school sometimes. It keeps them from trying out for a sport or whatever it is that they need to do in their lives that they can't do, and this is a hindrance. And then on the flip side of it, as we age, women in the workplace. So there's a lot of policies around maternity leaves and maybe breastfeeding rooms, but we don't think about what menopause in the workplace looks like. And maybe it's even, having your own temperature regulated area that you can control the temperature in your section of the building, or maybe it's just like a room that you can go and have a mental health break, or just some understanding around that. Or if it's a uniform job, even, right? Like, is the fabric that you're wearing, is it conducive to being able to be layered, or is it breathable? And so I think this is a time where we have to think more about how can we support women as we age in the workplace as well. So just making sure that we support women all the way through.
So beautiful. And again, it goes back to I don't even know what questions to ask. And so your site and your community does it, what it feels like to me is you saying, okay, Pascal, come on, give me your hand. I'm going to walk with you through this. That's how it feels to me. And oh, I have chills all over my body. So that is the feeling that you are offering women is come on, I'm going to hold your hand. I'll walk with you through this.
We're gonna figure this out.
Ooh, I'm covered in chills.
Uh,
So, in light of figuring it out together, do you have anything you'd like to offer listeners?
Yeah, I think a big one is around sleep. So just a little bit of advice and support about how sleep is kind of like I'd say the kingpin around a lot of this. If you can navigate a good night's sleep, it will help support so many of your symptoms around, brain fog, anxiety, you're making good decisions when it comes to food and exercise, your libido. So just optimizing for a good night of sleep. And in our section of sleep, we do have a lot of tips and advice and support around that. And for your listeners, I'd also like to offer a discount code of 10% off using the code CLARITY, and all of the links will be in the show notes. So I encourage your listeners to maybe check it out, or maybe it's something that they might want to gift a friend or someone that is in this stage in life.
That is very generous. Thank you so much. The link is in show notes with don't forget to use the code CLARITY for your discount. And I love the idea of giving it as a gift, going on there and finding something to send to your friend who has been suffering with hot flashes or who, and make it funny and make it fun and make it like just make it all relatable. You are so fabulous. Thank you for what you're doing in the world. Thank you for what you're doing for women, for people at all stages of life. Thank you for being a bright light.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time, and I hope that your listeners have found something that is helpful for them, but most of all, to realize that they are not alone.
Karine is such a wonderful example of embracing and standing in your inner power. Her beautiful heart harnesses that power and uses it to support others in such a beautiful way. Here are three key takeaways from our conversation. First, Karine's story emphasizes the importance of embracing pivots and taking bold leaps as she transitioned from a graphic designer to a trailblazer in the spirits industry, and now as a founder and advocate for women entering new life stages. Secondly, Karine underscores the significance of giving back and stresses that success is more meaningful when it's tied to uplifting others. And third, there is a need for open conversation about life changes, particularly menopause, offering women the space to share experiences and feel less isolated. Remember, every chapter of your life allows you to grow into your most authentic self. Join our community discussions in our private Facebook group, Connection and Clarity, and share your experiences or ask questions around embracing new life phases. As always, thank you for spending time with me. And remember, life doesn't come with a roadmap, so let Women Finding Clarity be your compass, where clarity, confidence, and joy are always within reach. Good night.